Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman, and joining us now on the phone from Washington, D.C. is Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. Of course, from Florida. She's a former chairperson of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and she's now leading one of the more important subcommittees, a newly formed subcommittee dealing with the Middle East and North Africa, a huge area of concern as it has been in the past and continues to be to this day. Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, John, thank you so much, and I admire Newsmax greatly.
Well, we appreciate it. That's a huge compliment coming from you. Let's talk about the current situation in Mali. Very serious. French troops are on the ground trying to expel militant Islamist forces linked to al-Qaeda, now occupying part of that African country. How concerned are you about this current situation in Mali?
Well, what's interesting, John, is that although it's a current situation in Mali, really this has been an ongoing threat that the Obama administration has chosen to overlook, to dismiss, to not pay any attention to not prioritize for a number of years. And under Obama's watch, this situation has gotten worse. We have increasing presence of Islamic extremists in North Africa, and that is growing. It's troubling. We have seen what has happened in Libya and Tunisia and Egypt and elsewhere in the region, how destabilizing these groups can be and how they can directly undermine U.S. interests.
One administration official, Leon Panetta, Defense Secretary, today saying that the U.S. will provide intelligence and logistical support in Mali. From what you know and your vast experience in foreign relations, what does that look like, and how involved directly do you see the U.S. getting in this conflict?
Well, I don't think that the American public wants us to get involved in another conflict. What our first priority has to be is that looking at our U.S. national security interests, and we've got to see, is there a U.S. national security interest in Mali? Well, our interest may not be directly in Mali, but we have an interest in making sure that these extremist elements don't get a foothold. And if they do, then we'll have al-Qaeda and the Taliban, whatever group they are, spread and spread and spread, and all of our great gains will have been for naught.
It seems like that might.
It seems like that. We need to protect and advance U.S. national security interests.
It seems like that might already be the case. You know, with Mali on the west coast of Africa, you also have al-Qaeda-linked groups all the way over to the east coast of Africa in Yemen. And I guess the greatest risk here is that these groups will gain enough influence and a foothold, and then, if they haven't already, start impacting the politics of Egypt, one of our most important partners for peace in that region. Is that the main concern here when you look at a holistic approach to this, that these radical Islamist militant groups could start having a real impact, if not already, on the politics of Egypt?
Absolutely, absolutely. And Egypt continues to be a real problem for us. Look at all the high expectations everybody had. Oh, wow, the Arab Spring, this was going to be terrific. And now what we've seen is we've got the Muslim Brotherhood in charge, and I'm worried that we've really just passed on the baton from one dictatorship to an authoritarian non-democracy. And Morsi has been actively trying to repress the voices of the dissidents and the opposition in Egypt, while gradually assuming more power for himself. So, and we've seen past statements that he had made about Israel and about Jews. And so that latest power grab that he had to go back on was just an example. I think we really see what is happening there in Egypt. And as these extremist groups take hold elsewhere, then they see Egypt as their next power grab, because they see it as an unstable region. And that's why I have pushed the administration to not release the money that they've wanted to release to Egypt. It's $450 million, because we don't really know what's going to be happening there. It's a troubled region. It's an area that's ever changing, and I have put holds on a multitude of organizations and territories that I don't think are worthy or meritorious of U.S. taxpayer dollars.
While we're here on this topic and talking about the region as a whole, I do want to talk about Syria. The situation continues to deteriorate when it seems like things cannot get any worse. Increasing pressure now on Bashar al-Assad, and there are intelligence reports that say things could actually get worse in Syria if Assad were to fall. What do you think the U.S.'s involvement in Syria should be moving forward?
Well, you really laid the groundwork excellently, John, about what's going on over there. Dictator Assad has been systematically imprisoning, torturing, murdering tens of thousands of his own people for over a decade. The U.S. needs to act responsibly. We need to act rapidly to address the threats posed by this crisis in Syria. 60,000 people plus have been murdered by this thug, Assad, and his whole regime. And as the crisis in Syria has gotten worse, as usual, the Obama administration has provided no real strategy to address the issue, and the Syrian regime's brutality, which is aided and abetted by the Iranian regime, seeks to further its illegal weapons programs and support for foreign terrorist organizations. So the possibility that the Assad regime has stockpiled up to 50 tons of enriched uranium raises serious concerns over the possibility that these materials may fall into the hands of extremist groups and rogue regimes.
And what specific steps would you recommend? A no-fly zone, things like that? What do you think is needed?
Well, first of all, we need to work with our allies. We need to, we've got to engage them and ask them to do some heavy lifting, because for too long it's been the United States-led efforts, and the American people have said, hey, enough is enough. We want somebody else to take over for a while. We're not the only ones at risk, and so we need to tell our allies, look, why do you continue, and why do we continue to have such a chummy relationship with Russia, for example, when Russia is arming the Assad's murderous regime and hurting the Syrian people, and they're complicit in their in this program of violence. So why are we still playing footsies with Russia? So I'm disappointed that we're not doing anything to stop this problem, and we need to work with our allies. But what is in our hands, such as pressuring Russia, we're not holding them accountable at all.
Yeah, Russia really no help in the UN Security Council, and neither is China.
Oh my gosh, and they've watered down every sanction that we've ever had in place, and it's not going to get any better. You know, wishing and hoping and looking the other way is not going to make the problem go away.
All right, now let's get to those appointments, the cabinet appointments from President Obama. We'll talk about former Senator Chuck Hagel at first. A lot of concern from Democrats and Republicans initially, though Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer just says that he will back Chuck Hagel now, and that his concerns about Hagel's attitude and comments toward Israel have been assuaged to some extent. John McCain also saying that he will not block Chuck Hagel, but I'm guessing that you still have concerns and you still think that he's not the right person to head the Defense Department.
Absolutely, I think it's a terrible nomination, and I think that his record speaks for itself. When you look at foreign policy issues, particularly issues that I've dealt with, Iran, Cuba, and Israel, all of them have run, his positions have run contrary to U.S. national security interests. So during his time in Congress, what did Chuck Hagel do? Well, he supported giving a lifeline to the Castro regime. He's opposed sanctions against Iran. And what has Iran been doing? Well, it's been pursuing the development of a nuclear weapon in open defiance of the international community. And Iran has called for the destruction of one of our most vital allies, Israel. Hagel has been an outspoken critic of the state of Israel, and this does not further the peace process. And I think that we should have someone in the Department of Defense who is supportive of our U.S. national security goals. Now, I know some of the senators are saying, oh, well, that's the old Hagel. Now everything that he did and that he voted for and that he was against, now he's a new man, and, you know, he's walking around the halls of the Senate maybe with a I Heart Israel sticker. Well, it takes more than that.
Well, he still has a long way to go, and I'm sure a lot of the questions and concerns that you just raised right there will be brought up again during his Senate confirmation hearings.
Well, I certainly hope so, John. You know, I don't know, when we have to rely on the on the Senate, that makes me pretty nervous.
Well, the record on the budget isn't very good. But last question before we let you go, the last appointment we want to talk about is current counterterrorism advisor John Brennan, nominated to be the head of the CIA. Do you think, and there's also been some concerns that, or some talk from some members of the Senate that they might hold up his confirmation process to find out more information about Benghazi. Do you think that's right?
Benghazi, right. We want to know where he was. What did he know? What happened that day? Remember, this was a 7-8 hour firefight, and we wanted to know exactly where he was. Where did those memos end up? Was he involved in the decision to not send help to our 4 Americans who were under siege?
Now, Brennan is also expected to be confirmed eventually, but do you think if there's anything in there in terms of Benghazi that could disqualify him, and what would that be?
Well, I'm looking forward to the Benghazi hearing here in the House, where we're going to have Senator Clinton finally appear before our committee on Wednesday. She first will go to the Senate in the morning, and then we will have her testimony in the afternoon. And there's a lot that we want to know about the timeline of her day. What memos did she receive about our consulate? Did she know that they were under siege? What did she do after knowing that? Did she call the president? Where are the memos? Where are the cables? What can we know about what happened in Benghazi? John Brennan and company, all of them have to answer to the American public.
Okay, Congresswoman, we'll pick it up on another day. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I know you have to go vote. Thanks so much for spending a few moments with us.
Thank you to the whole team there at Newsmax.